Hey, I'm Sarah Kua with NFM Lending. Today I have Ashley Kovacs and Joe Kovacs here on Closing Time Podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about what it takes to be Olympic level athletes, coach your husband, be big time, win Olympic medals. And we're just kind of going to dive into the process in which you guys go through every day behind like the training and the mental aspect of sport and what that means to you guys and how you guys push yourself every day. I think it's really cool to show people some of the things that you guys do behind the scenes that nobody really knows about, right? So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, let's.
So a little background on me and Ashley. We grew up together, known each other since we were 8 years old, both ran track and field together.
Yep.
In high school. We were pretty much the only two that ever made it to the state meet. So
yep, totally.
Just a little gentle shout out to my old skills.
Yes.
Washed up, but
good skills.
Yeah, good skills. So how did you and Joe meet? Been in track and field for a long time, but how did you guys meet each other?
Joe, you take that one.
I'll take that one. Well, as you said, like you guys grew up together in Canton, Ohio, and I always say I knew who Ashley was before she ever knew me because I had a family friend who was a Catholic priest who was stationed in Canton. You guys are North Canton. But of course, Ashley was really good. So when I was in high school, freshman, sophomore, all these people in the area would tell me, hey, there's this girl in North Canton who throws the shot put. She's really good. And some of the people would actually bring me the newspaper and show me like, hey, look at this girl. She's good. You know who she is. So I knew who Ashley was way before we ever met and she talked. And of course, once I got to college, she went to Kentucky. I was at Penn State. I think we probably met in a meet in Arkansas the first time we bumped into each other.
Just like saw each other at meets. Like I knew who he was good, and he had a teammate that was good. Like knew of each other, but like just casually as friends. I saw him out at the Olympic Training Center in like 2000.
Yeah, you came out for about a week or 10 days to work with my old coach.
He just gotten out there. He wasn't even staying there yet and just practiced, like just friendly, whatever. And then we saw each other at USA's in like 2017 and kind of started talking, and then just it escalated.
Yep.
So when you guys met each other, you were being coached by somebody else, and at the time you were a college coach. Mm-hmm. How did you guys transition from that dynamic to being like, hey, let's work together and make this kind of a team thing? Or did it naturally, organically happen because you guys were constantly working on it at home?
Well, I mean, so we started talking. I mean, and honestly, we weren't even really dating because we didn't live in the same state. And then he came to Columbus, and he was still working with his coach, and he was coming to our practices. And then it just became a thing kind of where it made more sense to just do it together. Like everything was kind of set up to be that way. It was harder to kind of like send videos back and forth. And so, I mean, I don't really know exactly like what the tipping point of that was necessarily, but it kind of just evolved that way. It wasn't necessarily something I was like fully excited to do necessarily.
Hey,
just
be your coach.
Yeah, I mean, and like I think that's for a lot of reasons. Like first of all, like he was already a world champion. Like when he came to Columbus, he'd already won worlds in 2015, and then he had gotten second at the Olympics in Rio in 2016, second at the World Championships in London that summer. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like I was like, ooh, like let me just try to make this better. Like he was already one of the best that had ever done it, and the coach he had is a legend in the sport. So it wasn't necessarily something I think that was like that we did because we wanted to. I think logistically it just worked out that way. I mean, that's how I see it. I don't know how.
Yeah,
how
I mean,
Joe
for sure.
it.
I would say Ashley never really wanted to become my coach. I mean, and we never even kind of had that thought until it kind of had to happen. I think there was a point in my career where I was definitely thought about being done, especially when I moved here. And maybe I was like kind of maybe sabotaging my career because we were enjoying our time together more than I was enjoying practicing.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
So the 2018 season wasn't my best season, but that was kind of on purpose. And we got married that fall. And that's what I remember about that year more so than anything else. And there wasn't a world championship that year. So we really didn't care about that season. But of course, going forward, I wasn't throwing as well, and we're sending videos back and forth. And I think Ashley was just kind of tired of not seeing me do well. Mm-hmm. And I think she still thought I could do well, even despite me thinking I could. So there was kind of I had a bad meet. It was here at Ohio State, and finally it was just rough, and I wasn't in it. And I think she was just like, we got to do something. Either you're done or you're going to just listen to what I tell you to do, and we got to clean this up. And like ultimately at the end of that year, it went from being the worst meet of my professional career to I won the world championships in Doha at the end of that season. So with a crazy mark and statistically known as the greatest competition of all time. So when we think about that season of winning a world championship, most people think about me winning and the circumstances about the, how crazy of a mark it was. But like we think about the roller coaster that happened beforehand.
Yeah.
I think about I was done. We didn't know what's happening. And that's really where we came together, put our minds, my body, and got everything lined up to be able to kind of focus and come away doing something that I certainly didn't think was possible before I did that.
Heck yeah. So prior to you coaching him, you were a coach in the collegiate space, right?
Definitely.
So you started at Murray State.
Right.
You were a GA there.
Yep.
That was for one season?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like you understand this because we worked together. So Sarah and I worked together at the Columbus Dispatch for Dispatch Media Group. And we were in sales, media sales. And I left that job to go be a graduate assistant at Murray State. So
you were making what?
I
at
mean,
the Dispatch?
literally, like I was 23, right?
Yeah.
The target for the year, like when they sent me the letter, was like, if you hit your goals, you'll make like $55,000. And I remember just thinking to myself, if I made $55,000, like that would be insane, right?
So
that would be like so amazing, And like
I remember you saying it
and
to
for
me.
you, like it was
And I
like
was like,
already,
no,
you were already killing
twice
it.
that.
I know,
Let's
yeah.
go.
But I was like so scared. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to make any money. It was a draw against commission.
Yes.
Right. So essentially, like there's no guarantees for anything. But like for me, that was huge if I did that. So essentially, like I met my goal in 10 months there, which was like huge for me, right? And I remember going into my boss's office and saying like, hey, I want to go coach and they're going to pay me $3,000. And he looked at me, he's like, you're going to leave Columbus to go to Murray State, which is like a small rural town in Kentucky, to make $3,000. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I remember like thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to make what I made in sales and coaching for like a long time. And I was okay with that just because I wanted to coach so bad. Like I tell everybody, like when I was getting recruited, I told the coaches I wanted to coach. And that's the thing. Like I knew I always wanted to do that. I think I felt like I wanted to stay involved in the sport. And that seemed like the route to go if you wanted to do it. And I also think that just like being the oldest of, 3 other siblings, there's 4 of us. Like I think you learn how to kind of be a leader young, especially when you're good at sports, especially when you're the oldest in your family. So I feel like it was a really natural thing for me to do. So I was at Murray State. I was there for a year, had a lot of success in 1 year, learned a ton, went to Western Kentucky for 2 years, which was amazing. Like, I think that having the experience at the mid-major propelled me so much for my next job, which was Ohio State. And I was there for 7 years. And obviously, like, that was like a dream job for me coming from Ohio, obviously. And they hadn't had a lot going in the throws for a long time. So for me, it was like really personal to like make that go. And so spent 7 years there, had a lot of success, had a lot of really awesome experiences with everybody there. And that's when Joe came. So we were there together for 5 of my 7 years. And then we were at Vanderbilt. I was associate head coach there for 2 years. So yeah, I mean, like Joe said, it was crazy working with him after having worked with like younger athletes. Like everywhere I went, the caliber of athlete kind of increased. Like Murray State, like it's different level than Western Kentucky. And then there's a different level of athlete at Ohio State. And then there's Joe, and so my forte was more development. And I hadn't had any experience working with somebody that was like legitimately the best to ever do it, right? Like there's literally like 3 or 4 people in world history that have thrown anywhere near what he's thrown. And like number 2 of all time in world history. Like obviously that's not something that I'm like super eager to touch, right? Like in a lot of ways you feel like you can only make it worse.
Yeah.
And I think that it took a lot of courage kind of to like think I could do that. But most of that came from Joe just telling me that I could, like believing in me. So I think that changed me a lot as a coach. And it also made me a way better coach for development at every level. But I think that, it's so different teaching like a beginner and teaching somebody at this level, like what they're doing is nothing the same.
Right. So there's so much more that goes into it. It's
totally.
not just technique. It's what you eat. It's how you train. It's lifting weights. It's sleeping. And it's all the stress that you take in on a daily basis.
Right.
So how do you guys mitigate all of that? Because you have 2 little kids at home, right? And there's a lot that goes into this space. So kind of like run us through like what it is that you guys are doing at home outside of just like the throwing to keep you enhanced and in this space so that you guys are as sharp as you can be.
I mean, Joe has like kind of a cool thing I think he thinks about in terms of how me being his wife adds value to his training just because I see everything. So
yeah, I mean, I think for better or for worse, right? It's as this role of being a coach and a wife, they are 2 separate roles, but for us, we blur those together. And there's definitely times, like, let's just say I was working with another coach, like, they don't see me the first 4 hours of my day, right? Mm-hmm. So like you can kind of maybe throw a bunch of Starbucks espressos on there and show up to practice where you're not really, just kind of faking it. And I can't fake anything with her. And that's one of the things that we don't really try to fake anything to each other, but there's definitely a thing of like, she knows the second I wake up what the day is going to look like. Yeah. And I think that's such a huge value for me, as an athlete, because she's already audibling what we're going to do in training because she sees me stumbling on the ground because I did a 1,000-pound squat 3 days beforehand. I'm still not making sense, still slurring my words sometimes, right? That's just what happens. And I think that's a huge value for me that we have together because it's such a partnership. And the coach thing, I think a lot of people have this mentality of a coach, like she's like waking me up and making me do push-ups or something like that. But it's really a collaboration of like on a mission together. Yeah. And I don't think there's really much difference between what we do on the track versus what we do at home with our kids and then what we do in our life together. We're kind of like on this mission, you burn the boats, and we're going on this journey together. So you really are trusting the other person. And we have all these things we talk about, like showing the mirror is one thing it's really big for us is like, if I want to say, I want to win this meet or throw this far, and I'm not holding myself accountable there, like she shows me the mirror every day when I'm not. And like, sometimes that's like a hard feeling, but it's also something that's really, really important to us both of, Ashley's goals. If I show her the mirror and she shows me the mirror back, that's how we're making progress together. So it's not just, she's got a whistle to make me do some push-ups, right? It's a lot more of like a journey together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So talk to me about like separating that. Like, how do you go from, all right, we just like worked out. Maybe you had a bad throw day. Right. Maybe you didn't have a good lift. Maybe you were tired. And so that as a coach, that burns you down a little bit, right? And then you got to go in and eat dinner with your family. Right. And you guys got to go be together as a couple. Like, how do you make that switch? And is that difficult or more difficult during like a crunch time versus like right now where we're not really competing that much?
I'd say it is absolutely more difficult during crunch time.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things, like we talk about this all the time too, like the idea of balance. And that's sort of a fallacy in my mind in a lot of ways. Because I think that like at certain times of the year, like it's harder to have balance. Like when the Olympics is in a week, definitely more of my focus is going towards that than it would be to going on a bike ride and enjoying my relaxation. Like you just don't get the luxury of balance all the time, right? And so we understand that. So there are certain times of the year where we kind of like overdo the relaxation family stuff. And there are certain times of the year where we overdo the like, hey, like this is kind of crunch time stuff. And there's not as much time before it to like chill out necessarily, And so I think that we've been doing this now together for so long that we kind of know when it's time to flip the switch. Joe calls it flipping the switch. And it's literally like, almost like, this is when I'm flipping the switch, And I think that like to go back in the house and like have a meal after practice is done, like that's never something that's been difficult for us to do. But I will tell you, it's like the same as anything else. Like, we talk about this, like if you were a businessman and you were going to work and there was a problem at work, like it's not like you just necessarily 100% leave that at work. Like it's on your mind when you come home. And even if your wife has nothing to do with your business or has no idea even what you do, she can tell that something at work is bothering you.
Sure.
So that's where we have to, sometimes we do circle back and like have conversations about it. But like, I think people would be really shocked to know like the amount of conversations that Joe and I have had about the shot put since the Olympics at home, less than 5.
Yeah, probably less than 5, unless we're doing a podcast.
Unless we're talking about like that, up. Yeah, right? Yeah. Or like coaching other people. But like, as far as like literally conversations that would be like distressing to us in any way about the shot put since the Olympics, maybe 0. Like we know how to do that, right? And I think that we are really good at like knowing what we need to be doing, when we need to be doing it, and making sure that things are getting done without kind of like burning the candle at both ends. And I think that a lot of that comes with experience and just the longevity that he's had in the sport. It's his 13th year as a professional now. It's our 8th year doing it together, I think. So it's been a learning curve for sure.
Yeah. Like walk me through like a training day, like a normal day. Like how does that work? You guys wake up, you have breakfast, and then what? Like give me a normal day.
Yeah, it definitely changes throughout the year. So I'll tell you, there's a part of the season, which I'm kind of in right now, where I kind of train more like a powerlifter, where I'm trying to build the engine. So the emphasis right now is just making my body as big and as strong as possible. So the emphasis is when we wake up, of course, we have our kids, we go downstairs, have breakfast. We try to do as much training as we can during their nap time. Right? That's a sweet spot from 12 to 3. Almost all last year, my preparation for the Olympics, I'm probably the only athlete who did all their training during their kids' nap time, right? Like it may not be ideal, but that at this point in my career, I'm fortunate enough that I found my way to be efficient and be able to go from talking about Lightning McQueen to chalking a ball up and trying to scream at it and put all my energy into it, right? But now, like as the season goes on, I transition from that kind of power lifter, build the base of strength, to being more like a weightlifter who's doing more snatching and moving, more dynamic movements. And there's a point of the season where we turn into a shot putter. So like during that season, our schedule fairly stays the same in terms of when we are practicing, how it's going, but how my body reacts and how she has to adapt to it, it changes quite a bit.
Yeah.
How did you get all the knowledge on like weightlifting and stuff? Because is that just like that go hand in hand with throwing? Is that something that you took on as a coach at one of the universities and you kind of like dove into it and got some knowledge on, or?
Yeah. I mean, like the strength piece has always been super important to me. Like obviously, one of my biggest mentors, Judd Logan, was somebody that taught me a lot about training in general. So he was a 4-time Olympian that is from our hometown. And he was really big into weightlifting, like put a big emphasis on it. And then I had another mentor that's the coach at Ole Miss now. His wife was also a 4-time Olympian and made some teams with Judd. But they kind of taught me like the system of like how to get strong and then how it ties in with the throwing. So it's really hard to separate those two things. Like we don't really think about it as weightlifting and throwing. We think about programming them like as a unit. Like it is a full circuit unit. And so for us, like with Joe especially, we've gotten to the point where we know how his body responds to everything and where he needs to be, what rep schemes he needs to be at, what strength levels he needs to be at what time of the year to be ready to have the best possible body he can have to start the season. So for us, that's just been something that's been like, we're pretty much on the same page with that at all times. Like Joe's obviously like one of the strongest people in the world legitimately, and definitely the strongest thrower that maybe ever was. And so we really take the strength piece seriously, and it's something that I think is probably a strong suit for both of us in a sense.
Yeah, and we definitely, my event in particular, we have the highest correlation to the weight room. Like throwing weights and lifting weights, it's the same thing. So it's so intertwined that like there's a big part of the season that Ashley's using the weight room to kind of regulate me and hold my body back. Because once we, as she said earlier, I say flip the switch. Once we kind of flip the switch, you don't really go back in that base, right? You just got to keep on going, and that's where you get a better rhythm. That's where you start throwing farther. That's when the competitive season, the money meets that we're trying to chase. So that's where we're really trying to go after there. But the weight room, mentality-wise, not just physically-wise, it's so closely correlated, and that's why I think we put such a big emphasis on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, talk to me about the beginning of your career, because I know that it hasn't always been like rainbows and butterflies. You weren't always the world champion. I know that you threw at Penn State. Kind of walk me through a little bit of that and then getting into the professional space and like what it took to get there and your road to get there.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a typical one because I think it was, I don't ever consider myself as being good. Like in high school, I was good, and then I got really good my last, senior season in terms of marks. So like I was lucky enough to go to Penn State. There's like a 15% scholarship to get on there. And I was just excited to have the opportunity to go to the flagship state school, being from Pennsylvania. But it wasn't like I was signing these full rides or this money thing. It was more like I took every opportunity and was grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in college, I don't think I was a very good collegiate thrower. I was okay. I think I got third or second in the NCAA, or third 3 times in the NCAA, which is definitely solid. But like, I never thought of having a professional career past it. And it really wasn't until my senior season at Penn State. I had a coach who left early that season. So I had no coach my senior year. Definitely not like ideal how you dream of ending your career. And at the last month of my career, I threw about 3.5 feet farther than I did my entire life. So I went from being pretty good in college to almost being on the Olympic team in 2012. I was third for 4 rounds, and eventually Christian Campbell bumped me out and I got 4th place. So I was the Olympic alternate. But like, I was the happiest 4th place guy, because normally you're sad when you make 4th because you didn't make the team. And I had the opportunity to keep on going the rest of the summer. So I had to like turn down what I call real jobs. I know it sounds bad saying that, but I had all these interviews and real jobs lined up. And I had the opportunity to go to Paris the next week to throw in the Diamond League. And then I got the London Diamond League. And ultimately that whole year kind of came together because I thought that was going to be my final season. I was just excited that I was able to end on a good note. And I don't know if I'll tell this, but like, I essentially was in London and I was sitting next to a fish and chips place, and there was a betting stand, and they had all the results for the Olympics like coming up, like who to bet on. And I was on the list of who you could bet on to get a medal in the Olympics. So I went in there and I asked the person, I was like, why? That seems wrong. And then the person behind the counter kind of dismissed it, but there was like maybe a professional bettor or bookie, whatever he was. He had his whole book with him of how he was doing it. And he took me aside and showed me. And it turns out, because I was the Olympic alternate, that I had a higher chance than 23 people who were in the Olympics to get a medal, because if one of the US guys got hurt or pulled out of the competition, they replaced me. It was just that much of a probability higher. And that's the first time I really had this like aha moment, like, oh, wow, not only could I be in the Olympics, but I could get a medal. Like, I never even thought of that. And I think that weird moment having fish and chips in London with a random sports bettor bookie really just trying to change my life, because it gave me a perspective that somebody might be willing to put odds on me for such a crazy scenario, that maybe I should put the odds on myself and maybe train for the next 3 years to make the next Olympics. And that's what I ended up ultimately doing.
How did you support yourself during that time?
It was tough, because I went from, in college, which I wasn't on a big scholarship. I had almost $100,000 debt walking out of college from, which you expect to get a real job from, and salary, and you plan to get rid of that. And I chose to go to the Olympic Training Center to work with one of the best coaches of all time. And I went back to living in a dorm by choice, so I didn't have to pay any money. And that's different when you go from college, when you have an apartment, to go back to having a roommate and living in a bunk bed. But like, I was able to kind of bunker down and save a bunch of money my whole first professional season, which was solid, not great, but everything I got, I just tried to pay that off. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't wasting time. And I think that's the hardest point in my career of like saying yes to doing another season, has been the opportunity cost of signing up for another season. Because in the back of my mind, it's always been, well, I could do this job. I could have this much experience. I could be doing this, but instead I'm still throwing the shot put. So there's only going to be so much on a resume where I could put that down and have it mean something. Yeah. So now going to 13 years, I think I kind of decided what I'm going to end up doing on the resume, but that decision was something that definitely grew over time, and I had to keep buying in along the way.
That's incredible. So your first world championship is in what year? 2015?
2015.
So the first major he ever went to, he won. So that's kind of unheard of. Like, he'd never made a team for the U.S. before. So like, there's a statistic that's basically like, most people that make a major have made a junior team for the U.S. Mm-hmm. So like, there's some statistic about, you were 20. It's like, the statistic is, if you haven't made a team by the time you're 23, you probably won't. So I think Joe made his first team at 23 or 24?
Probably, and then I won.
And then he won it.
Yeah.
So that in itself is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and for sure, it is you have these moments the first time you get to wear the USA kit. It's those moments, we take for granted now, the amount of suitcases we have at our house with kits.
I don't even think people
What's a kit?
So people don't realize it. Yeah, exactly. I think that this is worth saying, because like, for me, I've had some cool experiences with this because of the junior teams, right? So with the younger kids. So basically, like, there are U.S. juniors, so they call them U20s. So under 20 years old, you can make a U.S. team, and then you can compete. It's either like going to be a Pan American championship, or like every other year it's a world championship for the U20s. Okay. So that means that the entire world, it's a baby world championship, right? So you go to U.S. championships for juniors. So if you're under 20 years old, you can compete in it. And if you get top 2, you can compete for the U.S. So what happens is, and this is the same thing for the seniors. So like, you go to USA's, you go to Olympic trials, you get top 3, you make the U.S. team. right? So what happens is after you make the team, you go to team processing and they take your passport and they buy your plane ticket to go, whatever. But also you go into the room, you try on all the USA stuff, like they have the mannequins. It's like the look on these people's faces. I mean, it's so cool because you just like see this uniform that is only been in your mind to put on. And then you're wearing it for the first time and they give you this huge Nike roller bag and they pack your kit for you. So it's like you leave with your full uniform, like warm-ups, all this stuff. Like It's just everything. Yeah. So like the first time you get a US kit, it's like, it's awesome.
It's better than Christmas because you earned it. You
exactly.
know, it's one of these feelings cool. like, and it's, you know, sometimes it's tough because you see somebody who has to get fitted for the kit because they're alternate and you can see the faces of everybody.
Because you don't get to take it home.
You don't get to take it home. So there's all these, tough. And that happened
they've
to me
kind
in
of changed it now. You know, they changed it. Like at the Olympic trials now, they like don't make you go to process because it's like cruel kind of.
Yeah.
Well, I think
like, give me your size.
Yeah,
for
like,
myself in 2012, when
sad.
I was the Olympic alternate, I tried on the Olympic blazer and got fitted for it from Ralph Lauren that I was never going to get. And I think people can be sad from that, or you can kind of just use it as fuel, and that's what I chose to do. So I don't feel bad for anybody in that circumstance because I think there's a learning experience along the way to take it. But it's certainly kind of it's a little
and none for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know, right?
Try it on,
and the women in the room are like, oh, it's kind of brutal. But yeah, so I mean, the kit thing is amazing, you know. And like you said, it's almost like we have because like if you're a team coach, so I've done I don't know how many teams I've done, probably 5 or so.
Yeah, maybe
so
6 juniors.
Yeah, like including everything. So it's like he's been making teams for all these years. So we have all these US suitcases with all these kits. So you get these kits and like in our basement, it's just like
USA.
I know. It's exactly what it is. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of high points in your career, had a couple low points. Can you kind of touch on what's the peak moment for you? Like what was a moment that really you were like, I've accomplished so much. I don't know if I can keep going because this is the crux of it all.
I think maybe that peak moment still, luckily I might not have had it yet. Right. And that's what keeps me going. Yeah. But I think Doha, that season of the low to being the high, obviously winning that world championship in such a fashion, first and third place were separated by 1 centimeter, which is, you know, statistically, people will write books about that because it's just like an outlier. It's not supposed to be possible.
Explain what 1 centimeter is.
A staple.
Yeah, it's about the length of a staple.
That's what separated first through third
which is just like that. You never really see that ever.
Do they have to get a ruler out?
So it's lasers. It's like from the sky. Like there's nobody measuring it. Like it's a. And wasn't it?
Then I'd be like, pull it farther.
No, I know exactly. So at least we know that because didn't they go back and like
they have 2 different methods. There's a guy with a stick who measures, and there's like a camera system that.
But the stick is not a tape measure. It's still a laser.
Right, it's still laser. But I mean that one's worth noting because that's, you know, my competitor Tom Walsh, his first throw, he threw about 2.5 feet farther than any of us have ever seen in our lives in the competition on his
farthest
first throw
in 30 years.
So like he should have won that competition, like hands down. Like that
came and you took it.
Well, at that point it should have been over, and it really was until the 6th round. Right? He like everything you say you want to do, come out first round, get everybody tight. He did, and then in the 6th round, I was in 4th place. Not where I wanted to be. Kind of.
Were you in 4th place or 5th place?
Maybe
because wasn't Romani ahead of you too?
Yeah, he broke the championship record too. The guy who got 4th place in the meet actually broke the championship record.
That's how crazy it was.
Didn't even get a medal.
Literally,
still broke the That is literally
like legitimately.
Insane.
So nobody had ever thrown as far as the 4th place finisher in the history of a world championship.
When it comes off your hand, do you know? Are you like that's far?
Yeah, I went crazy.
Yeah,
I went crazy.
Well, you do. You yell really loud. Is that like? Do you have to do that?
Well, the initial yell is kind of like this wolfing sound I get made fun of for, but it's really my diaphragm getting squeezed. Okay. So a lot of what we do in throwing, it's like people think I'm actively throwing, but I always do this thing even with our camps, little kids, you put your hand here and as hard as you can, like that's throwing. But then when you put it back and it whips, that's actually what I'm trying to do is let my body turn into an actual whip. So part of that is when I'm contorted, my body goes, that little, that first real noise I make, that's what's making the power go, right? Okay. The second noise I make, that's just me saying I'm excited about it.
So we have our neighbor across the street, right? And he works from home. And we saw him on the street one day and he's like, you know, I got to tell you guys, like, I was working at home and like I heard these sounds and I was like, I think there's a hurt dog outside. Like I got to get out there. He's like, and then like I realized that like Joe was throwing.
Yeah.
And then every day when I heard that sound, I just knew that Joe was throwing. He's like, I thought there was a hurt dog. Like I was concerned.
It's like a very large.
It's a very like it's a very like noticeable sound. It's very distinct.
I've seen throwers do that a lot. I mean, I remember you kind of doing it sometimes. It's just like on this release. And so that's not like you physically doing it. That's your body like releasing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like breathing out.
Like if you think of all the areas in your diaphragm, and essentially if you're doing it right, you're kind of, we call it ringing the rag. So your hips are going one way, your upper body is going the other way, and all that air is just getting squeezed out. So it's coming out there, and sometimes it doesn't sound the prettiest, but honestly, the uglier it sounds, the farther it's going.
Yes, I love that. So what's the goal? The goal is to make another Olympic team, but in the process of doing that, we have several different world championships that we're going to be winning and getting to. And is it to throw the world's farthest shot put mark of all time?
Yeah, I think when you say that's the goal, I think that's what we're still defining and deciding. I think that's the hard thing is, especially after the Olympic cycle, right? There's always this letdown of like, okay, are you signing up for it? And the crazy thing is, like, even in Paris this summer, people come up to you right away. You go into LA, that's the first question you get asked. And you're like, I can't even think about that, first of all, in this moment. And second of all, I do this full time as a profession. So it's not the LA t-shirt for me. It's every single Diamond League, every single world athletics meet that's paying, all these little meets along the way. I got to do all those first before I can be excited to put that one on, right? And there's so much that goes into it. So I think we're at this point right now. We're just kind of re-upping, we're redeciding, and we're saying we're going for another 4 years. We definitely want to make sure get to the next Olympics. But I think we're excited to try to kind of go after the things that have maybe plagued me in my career, being these things that I do that I wish I did better. And I think that's something that like it's hard to do. I think that when people come to me all the time, you're like, you're the veteran, you know how to do things. You're the only guy in history to have 8 medals in a row. You know how to do major championships. And I could say yes to that. Or I could be honest with Ashley, my coach and wife, and say, yes, but that we know I'm capable of this. So like I'm falling short of on a standard of what we set and we know I'm capable of. So I could just kind of keep copy and paste the blueprint and probably keep getting medals. Or I could kind of take the risk and chance to put our minds together and try to be better. And I think that's the one thing with our sport that is exciting because you can measure the results. Like it's a brutal thing too, because you go out there and you measure and it's not good. The reality is there every single time. So we have a measurable to chase, and I think that's what I'm looking forward to in this next season is chasing these things that I need to do a better job at.
It's awesome.
I think one of the things that I don't know if this is how you feel, but I kind of think it is. I think for a while it was this decision of like, is this going to be what I do? And now it's to the point where like you've made a career. Like it is a career. You had a career doing this. And even if you never touched the ball ever again, like this was a career, and it's amazing and nothing can be taken from what he's done. And I think that just like knowing that maybe we can see the finish line now, like it's probably going to go to here and then it's going to stop. I think that that's kind of given like a sort of a sense of liberation to both of us in the sense that like, it's been awesome. Like if we had to stop right now, there's so much there. Like there's so much to be thankful for. There were so many amazing moments, amazing opportunities, people we've met, places we've been. Like he's been all over the entire world, and it's just been, and he's inspired people. And I think that's also something that he doesn't see it that way. Like he'll talk about the people in the sport that inspired him, but like 100% he's done that for other people at this point. So I think like looking at it as like this, what do I want from here beyond just the numbers is something that we're starting to kind of like try to fill in on the back end now. And I think it's probably going to make the last quad maybe the most memorable one, because I think we're trying to think about how we can give back. And just because like it's given so much to us, you know?
And you mean that in the sense of like the sport, right? Like you guys have so much knowledge on throwing, but not only that, but on weightlifting, on nutrition, on mindset. Like that's what gets you to the place that you're at, not because you're just like some great technique, right?
Well, it's all the stuff behind the scenes. There have been so many people like along the way with us, right? Like people that have gotten us inspired in the first place to do it. Like, you know, his coach that he had at the Olympic Training Center, like lit a fire. Like Judd Logan would call these people light givers, people that can illuminate your path farther than you can see. And I think that is what it's all about. Like somebody that's going to show you like, well, maybe you thought you'd get to here, but maybe you could all like get a lot farther down the road if you did this, this, and that. And I think for us, like we didn't really realize maybe that we could do that for people that we don't even know. So just putting more stuff out there of like sharing insights of like, this is how we think about this. This is how we do this. This is what Joe's doing. And just getting feedback from like coaches. Like we've been doing some camps, like high school camps, and the amount of like feel good we're getting from doing those 2-day camps has just been awesome for us because we're seeing a bunch of people. We're kind of like telling them our story that came from humble beginnings in a lot of ways. And we're just telling them like, if you work hard, like maybe it's not going to be the shot put, maybe it's not going to be throwing, but if you do these types of things that we've had to do to get to a high level in anything you're doing, you're going to be a high level at it, or you're going to at least be doing a job that you're proud of. And I think for us, that's like the whole thing, like be proud of your work. Like that is actually your legacy. Like it's not necessarily what you did, but more so like how you did it. And I think that I can say for sure as his wife and as his coach, like the way he's done it, there's a lot to be proud of because it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been glamorous a lot of the time. There have been some things that would have put other people down and out that he's continued to find a way and push through and had a legacy of success because of that.
Do you lean on Ashley in moments when you are in a rut or something? Like, is she somebody that you're like, hey, like today was rough on me. I need you to talk me out of the hole? Or is it more you kind of like go to her to talk about like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you go to her to get this, hey, it's okay, we're going to get through this? Or is that, you don't want that? Like, you're just like, keep pushing me, keep going here, and don't be soft on me.
I think we probably do that in a way that with less words because essentially our sport, it's measurable. What I do in the weight room has a number. What I do in the ring has a number. So we're able to look at things very binary. Yeah. Like one thing I hate, and this might be track specific, but I think people can take this outside of track, is like make things super binary because it can get way too wordy.
Too emotional too. Like
too emotional. It's either was you executed this well or you didn't.
And that doesn't need to be hurt. Like that doesn't need to be something that hurts somebody, right? Like
that's growth.
And like for us, the way that it works, it's like, okay, if you had a bad practice or we thought you were going to do this and this and that at practice and it didn't happen, it's like, why? For me, that's as a coach, being able to like pick it apart and say, why? Were you tired? Did the workout from the other day take more out of you than we thought it would? Was the hit from the weight room, did it like last longer than we thought? Did you sleep well? Were you eating well? Did we have like a long day with the kids? Like there's always going to be a reason why. Is it a technical reason, right? Like what is the reason why? So like when something's going wrong, instead of making it like, and it does get emotional, like there's totally that element, but it's almost more powerful for us to feel like, what's the problem? And then how do we fix it? Like what is going on from a physiological standpoint, from a technical standpoint, from just like a recovery standpoint, what is the problem? Because you know how to do it, right? So for me, it's almost more, and it's that same showing the mirror thing. It's just being like, hey, listen, you threw this ball this far 7 days ago. There's no way that you can't do that right now, but there's a reason why you're not doing it. What is that reason? And for me, I have a lot of data that's not just the weight room, not just the throwing, but like the life piece of it that I can say to myself, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this. And then what I do, and I think that this is where I see myself as like coach more than a lot of other things, is like I try to take all the information I have from him, sleep, eating, how he looks, how he's feeling, just all of that, and then make decisions based on what was missing and why are we not where we thought we were going to be. And so it's like, that's what I take on myself more than probably anything for him, is just helping him manage where he needs to balance what to get him to feel better, to be in a place where he can do what we know he can do.
Yeah. Intense. I love that. So how do you guys maintain like peak performance all the time? Or would you say like right now I'm not in like the best shape, or like I'm not in throwing shape, I'm in lifting shape?
Right.
You're lifting really hard.
Exactly.
Right now. I saw you like squatted like 750 pounds 5 times or something the other day.
Yeah,
8. Okay. Well, who's counting?
Well, I was.
Yeah. So like, what does that do to you though? I mean, like I know when I go and lift in my basement for 20 minutes, I'm tired. Like, and I got to take a second. I can't imagine doing that and breaking myself down like, you know what I mean? So much. So like walk us through that.
Well, and we plan the hits. We call them the hits, right? Like that had a big hit, a big bench. The bench doesn't take as much out of me as the lower body, a trap bar. For sure the squat takes a big, so we plan these kind of down, we expect the down.
Right.
But like in terms of shape right now, like there's definitely, a couple weeks ago, the NCAA championships were happening and it was just like, man, I don't know how I do in that, right? Because I'm purposely so bogged down and I'm not like, in throwing shape.
Like we know that though. Like it's totally like, okay, what he's doing right now, we know what he should be doing right now based on the type of training that he's in.
Yeah.
Then it just keeps evolving because like right now it's like 60% weight room. It's like 70% weight room, 30% throwing. Then it's going to be 40% throwing, 60% lifting, 50-50, and then by the time we get to his season, it's a taper. Yep. And so we have we don't get stressed out about that necessarily. There's probably like a week or two before he opens up where we're just like, we did it wrong again, but it always ends up kind of like working out. So like, that's the place where just, our work together over all these years, like we have a system down to like kind of, we know what to expect for the most part. We know what to look for. We know when it's kind of getting scary and like where to pull back. So like that's where the communication piece really comes into play and helps us out a lot.
Yeah. Talk about like mindset. What do you guys do to like get yourself switching from like, obviously I know you have 2 little kids and you just said like, I could be inside playing with Lightning McQueen, but now I need to go be serious. Like what do you guys do like mindset wise in day to day? Like how do you get your mind right? How do you keep yourself focused? And how do you make the switch from, again, like being a dad and being a husband inside to like literally walking out your front door to being like, let's go.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think, knowing what I know now compared to when I started my career, like I would tell people if I would have ended my career as a world champion in 2015 and I wrote the book, what I do now, I couldn't listen to that book, right? Because I used to need the whole day, the whole weekend to prepare for this Monday practice when my coach came to town. It was such a prep. And like you said, I go from Lightning McQueen now to snap my fingers and I throw one of the best practices of my life. Like, how do I do that? And I think I become so efficient at transition times. Okay. And I think that's it's definitely a learned skill, but like you have to force yourself every day to do it. And like, I think I use my warm up, my actual physical warm up as a mental warm up in terms of how to transition. Like I'm not just warming up my body. I'm kind of using that little bit of jogging, a little bit of everything to kind of flip the switch. And that's an important thing for me because even at my stage of the career, you go to a world championship and Olympics, like you warm up outside the stadium, you sit in a call room for 45 minutes. There's all these starts and stops and you have to kind of roll with these punches. And 2016, Usain Bolt was running and it was really cool inside the stadium because it was loud, but I had to wait 46 minutes between my second throw and my third throw because he was doing this for 46 minutes. And it took him less than 10 seconds to do his race, right? But I had to be subject to the external factors. So I think getting really efficient on the transition times for my practice, from life to practice, from practice to how I can do it in the meet is a really big X factor that I pride myself in because that's really how you can become like a champion, right? You can have a far throw when everything's perfect. I think you see people do well when everything's perfect and they hear the song that gets them pumped up. Like I've never heard my pump up song walking into a ring. Like we train in worse circumstances on purpose. Like I don't really listen to music. We throw in the rain. So like when I was in Paris and 3 guys before me all fell in the ring and it's the 6th round, like I'm from Pennsylvania. I live in Ohio. I cannot let rain be the reason that I couldn't find a way on my last throw to do something. I had to kind of dig deep, realize I've done this thousands of times. There's nothing different and just execute the plan. And that's how I was able to come away with a medal and throw what I did in the last round. It wasn't because I did something magical. It's because I did that same thing thousands of times beforehand.
And you told yourself that, right?
Yeah.
So where do you get like your inspiration from? Like, do you read? Do you listen to podcasts? Is there somebody that like gives you inspo?
Yeah, Ashley reads and listens to podcasts, and then I just hear what she says.
So what did that book that you read say? And then he's like quoting it like page 37. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I definitely listen to Ashley because she does more research and more thinking, and I'll like steal something she says, and maybe I don't quote her as well as I should. So I'm trying to do better about giving her credit on when she says something. But I think when it comes to like the confidence part, and like Ashley talks about this and about what confidence is, it's relying on something I've done before. You know,
the
preparation, and I don't want to steal the word that you say all the time, but like controlling your controllables is something that's really important for us. And I'll let you talk about that more, because that's something that like it's one of our mantras and how we approach everything.
Well, just like the whole thing that I would say to the collegians is just like confidence in preparedness. Like confidence is kind of like, again, like this arbitrary thing. And like exactly what Joe's saying, like for the example of the Olympics, it's the 6th round, it's raining, you're in 4th place, it's not looking great. And just telling him, like, it was like, oh, what'd you say to him? I said, 2nd place is 22 meters. So like when I said that to him, Joe has thrown 22 meters over 100 times in a track meet. There are other guys in that field that had thrown over 22 meters, but there's only one person in the meet that had ever thrown 22 meters in the history of throwing more times than Joe. So for him to just like realize like, all right, like that's something, that's not me having to go far outside of myself. Like I have that. Like I have 22 meters in my pocket all the time. Like I can do that. So I think he went from thinking like I need to throw 23 meters, I need to win this meet, to thinking like I just need to do the thing I know I can always do. And that's what he did. You know, and so I think that one of the things that Joe does well is like he doesn't sit there and like listen to like motivational podcasts. Like he needs to get it from himself. And I think that like that is something that really helps him, that he knows what he needs to do to make himself go. Like he doesn't need a rah-rah speech. I've never really given him a rah-rah speech. Anything that I've told him that maybe did like get him motivated or inspired was just something that's just like a statistic that makes him think like, all right, I got that. You know what I mean? And I think that like, even in 2019, everyone's like, what'd you say to him before the last throw? And it was just like, hey, like if you just treat this the way that you treated this one practice we had and reminding him of something that he's done before, then he's like, oh, I got that. I know I can do that. And that's what he does. So I think you have to, everybody's different, like motivated, like everybody's motivated differently. And so I know how he's motivated by just like, honestly, like statistics and like things that help remind him of what he needs to do, and then he can do it. Like it's not me, and I don't think it's me. I think it's him, and I also think that like our level of communication and like our database of just like what we've been through together and being able to pick through the archives on that and be like, hey, remember that one thing you were doing back in 2021 at Ohio State at this one practice and this and that, and he knows what I'm talking about. You know, so like that's the type of stuff that I think really helps elevate us. That's the type of stuff that like gives us confidence in what we're doing. It's just like, we've been doing this. We know what we're doing, and we know what we're doing. And we have a lot of faith that even when it's looking real bad, we can find a way to make it better.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I love that. Well, you were just talking about like working together, and the dynamic of that, because sometimes when you're thinking about like coach and athlete, like I guess that like you wouldn't be like, oh, we're work partners, but you are.
That's how we see it, like collaboration more than like, I don't see it like, oh yeah, I'm out there and I'm like, it's not like that for me, right? Like the mindset of like this militant, like blowing the whistle coach, I had a lot more of that like coaching collegians, because I don't really like, no offense to them, but they're not really in a position where it's like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, I don't really care. You're going to do what I'm telling you to do because you don't know anything yet, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, as they get older and they start graduating into having more freedom of like, you can tell me what you think, then that becomes a little bit more collaborative. But for somebody at his level, it's 100% a collaboration, right? And I think it's like a thing you think about like a swing coach for like a professional golfer, like Tiger Woods swing coach. It's not like he's out there like bossing him around, telling him what to do. It's like showing him like, hey, see your angle here, see that here, see when you did this, that. And they're talking about it because like, I'm sure Tiger Woods got a better swing than his coach.
Yeah.
Right. But he's still going to listen to him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I've never thrown a shot put 23 meters. Right. But I know that I know what he needs to be doing to be at his best, because I've watched him take more throws than he's ever seen himself take. Like, I've seen it. I see what it looks like when he does it right. See what it looks like when it's not as good. And so just being able to share like the feedback and really being the mirror for him is how I see the entire dynamic of it. It's really not like I'm just like bossing him around all the time. I'm helping him manage his skill set. I'm trying to give him appropriate feedback and give him what he needs when he needs it. Like, that's exactly how I see myself.
When people think of professional athletes, I think that they think money. They think they make a lot of money. There's a lot of glamour to it. I'm sure a lot of times people understand that there's something that goes into becoming a professional athlete. Can you guys kind of like talk about how you make money in the sport you guys are competing in?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's one of the things I think, maybe the older generation has a mindset track and field doesn't make any money because it came from the amateur. The sport was amateur. Now you can be professional, and I'll be like Usain Bolt. Do you think he has money? Everybody says, of course, yes, right? So none of us are at the point where Usain Bolt is, but our sport is definitely like a totem pole for sure. And the Olympic sports all have their hierarchy, and track is generally one of the higher ones, but my event in the throws is definitely lower on that totem pole. We're not as bad as some events. The hammer throw doesn't even have a series, but a lot of what I do comes down to really 2 meets a year. So there's we have a professional circuit called the Diamond League that has prize money every one. The last Diamond League is a culmination. There's a bigger pot at the end of it if you win that. And you get paid all the way down through 8th place, but honestly, it's exponential. Like it drops off. After 3rd place, it might not be worth going, right? But really, the way we view it is I have 2 track meets a year. I have the one in Eugene, Oregon, where I have to make the team, and I have the major championship, either the Worlds or the Olympics, where I gotta get the medal. That really defines the season. And when it comes to income, I not only get prize money, like the World Championship prize money is much higher than the Olympics, which I think people think it's the opposite, but the Olympics pay all of the Olympic sports the same. Whether track and field, the prize money is much higher. And then if you have a shoe sponsor, I'm with Nike, they have a bonus on top of that.
Okay.
So like that day can be a huge day because you're stacking so many bonuses on one day, one moment, one throw. So it could be a huge swing in one day. And then everything else, like the Diamond Leagues, I mean, they're still important, but they are what we view as like a way to make money,
sure.
Right? And almost like the way those competitions are, they're either helping you prepare for your season, they're helping you prepare for the major championship, or they're helping you get money to justify doing this for that, right? But they don't have the same emphasis and the same stress like it does to have the Olympics or World Championship.
Sure. Okay, so these sponsorships pay you out plus the meets. And then on top of that, like you guys do have some other things that you guys get your hands in that have kind of like naturally happened because of all the knowledge that you guys have in your space, right? So you have Throwvacs, which kind of go into that a little bit. Like how did that come about?
We've actually like had Throwvacs since 2019, which was basically like I guess 2020 we started it kind of. Mm-hmm. We started our website around 2020, actually COVID. So it was basically like people wanted t-shirts, like Joe t-shirts. And so we made, Joe's like, well, we need to have a logo. So I took a picture of me and a picture of Joe and I like made it black and white and like overlaid them. And then Joe took it to somebody to like clean it up. And like the Throwvacs thing was kind of like a natural thing. Like
and we
Joe
came up with Throwvacs as like throwing, our passion for throwing, and our Kovacs. It's kind of where we collide together. So
throwing
it's a little
Kovacs,
kind of a little play on that. But I think it's, right now, especially this past year, we've seen it more as a business than ever before. Before it was just a way kind of, people are coming to the Olympics and they want to wear matching t-shirts. Like how can we distribute them without me having to actually send t-shirts out, right? Mm-hmm. And not even to make money as much as just like, family wants to look alike. Mm-hmm. And it was an easy way to do it. But now we've had a lot more people. You're coaching people via Zoom. You're coaching some college, people via Zoom. You're doing a lot more coaching, and then we're doing our camps with it. So we're actually viewing it more as a business, and we're enjoying it more than ever because we're actually having this reach and this feedback, which I think in my career I haven't had. Like I always say, my favorite meets of the year are like last year was at Ashland,
right?
Right. Like I did all these meets last year, went to the Olympics, but like in Ashland, there's a bunch of kids in the area who just came to throw and they were excited to watch me throw. There's so many times like I might throw in front of a train station in Europe or the Capitol, and we do these really cool events that are in the middle of the street and there's people watching, but like there's not the connection you can have with some of these meets. And I think with Throwvacs, we'd be able to make connections through the camps, through the coaching, and we have a lot more coming out that we're excited about doing, which is giving us excitement to kind of keep doing it more.
Right. And like kind of gives you like a pathway right forward because like you said, like this is going to be maybe your guys' last 4 years of doing this. So how do you take all of that knowledge and everything that you're learning and everything you're doing in training and help other people, right? Because it's applicable not just to a thrower or an athlete, but a person in general. Staying disciplined, having routine, doing things that help your mind and don't get you off track, right? Totally. So these are all the things that people need to be successful in life. And how can you translate that from what you guys are doing? I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Outside of that, you have a little bit of interest in some real estate.
For sure.
How did that come about? Was that just like, hey, we have some like off time, I have some prize money, I'm going to buy a house as like a way to build wealth, or like,
Yeah,
can you kind of?
I think it kind of evolved as a way, something that was always maybe a small interest for me. I was a finance major in college, and then did an accounting master's and learned some more along the way. But I was into the stocks, into playing, always interested in like growing our wealth, not just to have money, but to have the security, to have the time, and even at a time before we had our kids. Now I'm glad we made the decisions we did before our kids that we do now. And now we're trying to make decisions now that are going to help us as they get older. But I think it's been this portfolio that we've been growing along the years. We're really looking at a time for security, because like in my sport, as I told you, how we get paid, there is no security, right? It's like I have all these medals, but I don't have a salary. I don't have any kind of like base to like say, take a breath and say, oh, that was really good. Every year you go back to zero, and you don't really get any residual effect of it, other than some meets might pay you a little bit more to show up because of your resume, but that's not really a guarantee. So I really love the real estate because, I've always joked about, I want to endow my salary with the cash flow. And that was a weird way of saying it, but essentially like it's been a way for me to kind of put this numbers in Excel sheets, put an investment into a duplex, fourplex, and all these units we have now, see the cash flow coming from it, see the appreciation, and start saying like, well, when I am done with my career, I can have X amount of cash flow, which is the same I was making on a medium year in throwing. Maybe not the gold medal year, but like a bronze medal year, right? But like you at least have the security. And that's actually what got me excited to kind of keep on throwing, because without that, it seems like kind of crazy to keep on staying in it. Sure. So I think that's one of the reasons that I was really attracted to it. And then, of course, meeting some people along the way, our agent, Lori Lynn, and Mario, and working with Mario Kua, and helping, like every transactions we made has been different. And I think I've learned so much from all of them, and then the team that we have, it's got me excited to do more. And what's different? Well, how we do this, we're about to close on another property in a month. That's been the growth. And I think it's got me excited to what's after track, right? What's after track. And I think that this is the part outside of the ring that's got me excited to grow for our family.
I love that. One of the things that we were kind of dawning on was like, how could you share this message, or like what advice would you give to a younger athlete that is looking to, or like aspiring to be a world champion or an Olympic athlete, not necessarily just in throwing, in general?
Yeah, I think advice, I always say, be careful who you take advice from, right? And I say that because there is people who, they might not be living the way you want to live, right? And I'm sure you guys see this, and especially the financial space you guys are in, right? You go on Instagram and Dave Ramsey's telling you to never take out a loan. Then you go on the other one and, Robert Kiyosaki's telling you to never own anything and take out a loan, right? It's so polarizing of what you should do, and you get so confused. And I think it's really about coming back to your core of how you want to see yourself be and your future, and how I want our life to be for the Kovacs family. Because it is, you can go through a reel and you can contemplate everything you've done in your life and think it's wrong in 3 swipes. So I think being for a younger athlete, I think is really defining what you want. Everybody says they want to be a champion, but nobody ever says like, why do you want to be a champion? Like if you want to win, you have to be excited to lose, because the only way you're going to learn how to win is by losing a lot. I've lost a ton in my career. Maybe my silver medals, some people see as all losses, but they were really winning in championship moments to get those along the way. So I think having that perspective and thinking about all the things that we talk about that we have learned from throwing the shot put that correlate outside of it. Delayed gratification is one of the things we talk about all the time. What I just did in the squat workout, 750 pounds for 8, what I did in the bench, this grueling kind of beating down on my body, there is going to be a time I capitalize on that. The same way that somebody puts a lot of money in a bank or an investment property, or there's some kind of investment that they see as a tool, like they don't get the reward today, but they can see it in the future. And I think like these themes have helped us in our career, and we're starting to see them help us outside of our career. And that's what I'd be excited to tell a younger athlete, is to kind of define your principles and where you want to go, and take the advice around that.
Great advice.
Really good.
Guys, Great conversation today. It's always incredible talking to both of you. I low-key plug you guys anytime I'm talking to someone I have a world champion friend and my best friend's the Olympic track coach. I'm so proud of both of you. Truly, I think that you guys are both incredible athletes, but even better humans. So thanks for being a part of this.
Thanks for
Always
having
a
us.
good time.